One, okay, sorry, it's, been a few days, the weekend, everything. Like I said, it's hard to record when my kids are home, so I have the weekdays while they're at school. So here we go. Chapter 3, the part 3 of my story. Sometimes the good thing and the bad thing about having a few days in between recordings is I'm like, oh crap, I forgot this detail in story 2 now. Just like in number 2, I was like, okay, I gotta add on more detail for number 1. And then I got to thinking, I'm like, I don't know, I mean, do I keep adding on more details? Should I do like little 5-10 minute snippets and add on some crazy ass details of shit I went through, like MySpace posts that stupid MySpace posts, just posters I put on my wall, but basically I got a call one day screaming and yelling at me that they couldn't believe I wanted to kill my in-laws, and then Dawn's mom was afraid to be around me because I wanted to kill her because something I reposted was stupid. Like little shit like that I always got in trouble for. They would read my MySpace when that was going on, then when we changed to Facebook. Like, they weren't in Facebook when I went to Facebook, but they did go to Facebook, which sucked because then they were there. And like, I swear they either had notifications on or were literally, because if I posted something they disagreed with, I heard about it sometimes pretty damn immediately. Sometimes I'd get an email, sometimes I'd get a phone call, sometimes I'd get both, sometimes I'd get my husband would get a call while he's at work because I posted something. I mean, just shit was rampant. I mean, I don't know. So yeah. Anyways, story 3 I think is gonna be long. Hopefully not, but let's get into it. Let's dive into it. So basically, I don't need, I should have watched story 2 to see where it ended off at, but it doesn't matter in a way where it ended off because it all ends here. So basically, we lived about within 2 miles of my in-laws. Like, we didn't live terribly far from them. Like, you go leave my driveway, you go down the street of 3 blocks, turn, go half a mile or so, turn, go down that street, and then you're at their house. And like, it was quick drive, and it was walking distance. And my son would sometimes walk it. And my kids had gotten their school pictures, and I kept walking past my decorative window, and there was a picture there of my daughter that on the back I had scribbled, to. I put Dawn's parents. I never put grandma and grandpa because, like, they weren't really grandparents. Like, my parents, I'd put, to grandma and grandpa with love, Aurora. I'd be like, oh, to so and so. I'd put their real names and just put, my daughter's name, age. No, no love, no nothing. Just, that's it. Just, you know, whatever. So basically, yeah, my dog's still in the camera, isn't he? Sterling, are you stealing my attention? You're stealing my attention. So basically, um, I kept telling myself, I was like, you were over by their house and you didn't take the picture. And I kept, for like a couple weeks, I kept seeing this picture and I'm like, well, I got a phone call from my oldest son. I can't remember how old he was at the time. I don't know, 17 ish, something like that, give or take. Somewhere between 16 and 18, I don't know. Yeah, maybe 16. Yeah, because this is a while ago, maybe 16 ish. He was driving. I know he was driving, but I had his car because I don't know, weird situation. I think our cars were broke down. He was the only car that the family had. I don't know. He walked to his friend's house because, like I said, we were in walking distance of. Well, he went to high school out there, and the high school that he went to covers all of the small city we were living in. It's a little tiny suburb of Salt Lake. Um, we lived in this tiny little suburb, like southwest of Salt Lake, and it was just such a small little town that it had like several elementary schools, but it only had like couple, I think two junior highs and one high school. And my son called me and said, "Hey mom, can you come get me? I don't feel like walking home." He's like, "I'm kind of tired." And I said, "No, no problem." And I realized that I was going about 4 or 5 blocks away from my in-laws, so I was like, "Okay, grab the picture, go get Parker, drop off the photo, go home." I mean, it's not unusual for me to go over to my in-laws' house and drop off something like a photo real quick and go. That's It's not unusual, like, for me to just pop in real quick. And Dawn's mom preferred it that way, because see, here's the deal, and if you can't tell this from story 2, here's the deal. Castle law. Your home is your castle, your place, your environment, okay? Your rules. So when we were at her house, my boys had to sit down to pee, blah, blah, blah. They had their rules. So whenever she came over to my house, those rules went out the window because it was my house, okay? I didn't tell anybody how to pee or anything. I had looser rules. Like, if you were at my house and you wanted to, everybody was sitting in the family room and you wanted to go sit in the front room, well, fine, whatever, go. You wanted to go hang out with my son in his room, whatever, go. Um, so she would never come over to my house for more than 5 to 10 minutes. Like, when my youngest was born, she finally came over. Like, we didn't tell her we were pregnant with him until I was like 7, 8 months along, because we didn't even know where our standings were. And then we didn't tell her he was born for like a couple of days. And then she makes an Afghan for all the kids, all her grandkids. And because I told her late, she just had to grab one that was already made. She couldn't make a special one specifically for him in case I requested a certain color. But I never did. Like, I'm glad I didn't, because, like, too bad I threw it away. Like, you should have seen the Afghan she made my son Wesley. Adorable. And she just wanted to experiment with a certain type of new crocheting, and it turned out tremendously cool and beautiful, and I loved it. And same with my daughter. I just, let her do whatever she wanted. She made it in purple, which ended up being my daughter's favorite color. So that, so I didn't, because she had a daughter, the second born child, my husband's younger sister, not younger sister. The She would like make specific demands of her mom. Like, I want these colors in this stitch, in this pattern, and like, that was not me. I kept trying to tell my mother-in-law, like, we are grateful people. We are grateful forever. Like, 2 years into being married to my husband, they cut us out of Christmas. They're like, well, we just don't know, like, what to buy you, and, like, it costs money, and, well, they thought I was expensive, but I told them, I said, you could go to All Dollar and buy, like, a coloring book and a couple cheap toys, spend $2, $3 on my kids, wrap it up, call it a present, and they would be happy. Like they just want something like everybody else. You know, when we go over there and everybody opens presents, how am I explaining to my kids that they don't get any? And it was really difficult. Like we got cut out of all the holiday. Like we got an occasional Thanksgiving invite, but basically, like the first year I was with my husband, they drew names, and like Dawn's brother got us, and we got like Dawn's sister, which I was happy with because she was my favorite sister at that point. And then the next year, they completely cut us out of Christmas. They did the drawing, but they took our names out. And the mom makes homemade gifts, which I don't know what I did wrong over the last 2 years. The year I was dating him and the first year I was married, because I told her I loved toll painting and I loved homemade stuff. I had no problem. But they decided that I was too difficult. Like I don't get where they got that from. Um and they just she would make 8 gifts, not 9. For her 9 children, she would make 8. Um so they just yeah, they completely cut us out. Like and we didn't even know. Like we went Christmas, didn't know we were cut out. Like we weren't even told we were cut out. Like we had to go and find out, okay? Like that was horrible. And I tried. They never learned who I was or what I was like or anything. Had they known, I don't know. While I was dating my husband, I thought I expressed, because she was sitting there going, well, Dawn's last fiance didn't like this that I did. And I was heavily compared to his first fiance. Like a lot of my dating of him, my engagement to him, when I would come over to the house, they'd be like, "Oh, well, Jennifer didn't like this, and well, Jennifer didn't like that, and Jennifer said all these mean things, and this is you know, his brother didn't go on his mission and blamed it on Jennifer. Well, you know why he didn't go on his mission is because he ran away from home for 6 months, dropped out of high school, and he kind of didn't get his high school diploma. And you have to have a diploma to go on a mission. Like there's requirements to go on a mission, and one of them is that you do have to graduate high school. So the first fiance had nothing to do with it. They just needed somebody to blame. They're like, well, she said this to me, and it ruined my mission. And I was like, okay. Never found out what she said. He wouldn't tell me. But something she said or did ruined him. I don't know. Maybe that's why they pinned it on me so hard, because when I came into the family, they said, no, no, you're a bad influence. You're going to drag our kids down. They're like, no, no, we don't want you around us, because if our kids go bad, it's your fault, Rose. They're like, your fault. You're a bad person, Rose. You say bad things. You're a bad person. You have a bad past. If our kids find out about your bad past and everything, and they find out how bad you were, they're gonna go bad, and it's gonna be all your fault that our kids left the church and went bad. Well, guess what? I wasn't in the family, and guess what? A kid did leave the church and go bad. I wonder if they blame me, though. I still see her to this day, and I think, I bet you they blame me. She's had 2 babies out of wedlock with 2 different guys. At least she knows the father of number 2. She didn't know the father of number 1, or so she said. And she's been married and divorced. She's lied to her husband. She lied to a good man. She said she was pregnant. He married her. He was a good man. Because we all lived in the same small town, my oldest son's friend lived next door to her first husband. So I knew the real story, not the story the family got. But basically, she faked a pregnancy. He married her 3 months later. The family did coax her into divorcing him, and they said, "We will only allow you back in our home if you divorce him." And they said he wasn't welcome in the home. She tried to bring him home. It didn't work out. They were all. She lied to me. She like called me up and told him how much the family loved him. She lied to me, made me think that the family was completely accepting of her lifestyle. And then I found out very different. I mean, the truth always comes out. That's why you don't lie. It always comes out, okay? It does. Like, trust me. I told a big lie when I was 17. And, well, the baby came out. The truth came out, The truth comes out. It's a good story to tell. My mom hates me for that one. But, anyways, on to the story. So, I mean, just this difficult 14 years, okay? So, I pull up to the house and park where my husband normally parks. My husband, from way before I met him, always parks on the side of the house. Never in the driveway, never in front of the house. He always parks off to the side of the house. So, I pulled up to the side of the house like I always do. I left the keys in the ignition. I left my purse, my phone, everything in the car. I left my son in the car, and I told him I'd be back in a second. I approached the door and knocked on the door and handed the mom the picture and went to leave. And she said, "Hey, Rose," and I said, "What?" And she says, "Come in." And I was like, "Well," and I was kind of pointing to the car. And I didn't say, and I should have, and I didn't say, "Well, my son's in the car, I gotta go." I pointed to the car, and as I was pointing to the car and saying, "Well," she opened the door all the way and said, "No, really, Rose, I need to talk to you." And I was just kind of standing there dumbfounded because it was like, okay, do I go back to the car and drive home? Or do I enter her home? And I said, okay, this is what my mind told me. It said, "Go in, Rose. If you're in there too long," I mean, this is what logic told me. "If you're in there too long, Parker's going to get annoyed and he's going to come knock on the door and he'll save you." So I counted on my son getting bored, knocking on the door, and saving me. Oh, God, was I so wrong. So, anyways, I go in. When you go in, there's a little tile entryway, square, just, wide enough for the door to open. I mean, that's, the tile. And then there's a hallway that goes straight forward, kind of like an open hallway. Like, straight forward, 10 feet in front of you is a staircase that goes upstairs. And then is a split staircase. There's a staircase that goes downstairs. They sit side by side. Like, if you walk up to the staircase and you turn right, there's the dining room, and then you turn right again, and there's the kitchen, and they're just one big room. The dining room, kitchen is just one giant room. Now, if you're back at the doorway, like immediately to your left is a couch, and you have to walk forward, and there's another couch that makes that look like a hallway to the stairs. Like, there's no wall. Like, if there was no furniture there, you'd walk into a wide open room. But the couches kind of block and make a wall. And so the only way to get into the living room is in between. There's a space about this big in between the two couches. Just enough to get your body through. And then normally I sit on either this. They had 3 couches. There was one here. There's one here, and there's the window and the door. Okay, and there's a couch that lined the window, and then there's the couch that lined the hallway, and then there was a wall here and there was another couch. So it was just kind of U shaped with a small entryway. Like the couches were almost touching all three of them because the room was kind of small. And so you got the U shaped couch, and then there's on the opposite on the wall there's a cutout for a fireplace, but they took out the fireplace and they made a place for like the TV to stand and stuff. And okay, picture this, okay? And I'm an artist too, okay? I'm a natural born artist, okay? So I did photography for a while because I like to draw and stuff, but I'm not the best at drawing, okay? I'm good, but I'm not the best, okay? So I've done other things. I've done painting, I've done photography, I've done acting a little bit, like here and there since I was a little girl. I mean, I've explored the arts. I mean, they're all under the big bucket of arts, movies. I've done in, I've taken interior design classes when I was in college to do my criminal justice and psychology degree. Um, I couldn't get pregnant for 7 years. So I started calculating my life because I had kids early at 17 and 19. So I thought, okay, when I'm 35, those kids are going to be gone. Or not gone. They're going to be like 16 and 18 or 15 and 17, okay? And basically, when your kid gets that old, like they're a sophomore, junior, senior in high school, like they're taking off with their friends all the time. They're going to the mall or the movies or just hanging out or whatever. Your house, their friend's house, whatnot, blah blah blah. Okay, so I'm looking forward at my life. I'm in my late 20s, and I'm looking like 7, 8 years into the future. Like, and I'm sitting here going, okay, at 35, do you want to be nothing? Like, you'll have no kids. And I've worked odd jobs, call centers, whatnot. I mean, I've been around odd jobs. You don't even want to know all the odd jobs I've done. That's a story for another day. Manipulative mother. I could tell you some stories. So, um, yeah, I keep getting off track here. So basically, I told myself now is the time for you to choose your college. Because I didn't know whether I wanted to be a teacher, a psychologist, what. Because I have a natural knack for both. And I ultimately decided, okay, now I have to pick a career because you need something to do in your 30s when your kids don't need you anymore. Because I can't have any more kids. So I started going to college for criminal justice and psychology. Well, in my sophomore year, I got pregnant with my daughter. It threw me for a loop. I wasn't supposed to be able to have kids. It's sometimes true what they say. If you want to have a kid, go get a life and calm down. You might get pregnant. Stress does stop you from getting pregnant because, boy, was I stressed out every month trying to. Well, when I was in college and I started saying, well, I'm not going to have any more kids. No, I'm going to be a therapist, psychologist, something. I like the idea of jury picking and stuff like that. That's one reason why I went for forensic psychology because I'm like, they get to pick juries, they get to be in the courtroom. I even joined the cost of volunteers, and I told that story last time about, helping that family get their kids back and stuff. Because I was like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to be all up in the court's business in a human behavior kind of way. You know? I mean, I'll tell you how good I am at picking juries. I'm good. I'm good. So, anyways, I had my daughter. I kind of panicked. I felt like, psychology and criminal justice courses aren't easy. I mean, You gotta learn a lot of stuff. You gotta memorize a lot of stuff. You gotta understand. You gotta be able to write papers about it and show that you understand what you're learning. And you gotta be active in class. And there's some other stories about that. I've gotten in trouble. I got a lot of stories, by the way. My life is just full of them. So, anyways, I needed a break. I needed a soft break. So, I went to the community college for a minute and I did a film class. And this was kind of funny because at the time I told you about the Facebook post about Twilight being a horror movie, and they got mad at me and said it was not a horror, that it was a romance, and they all dropped being my friends and wanting to see me. All my family ditched me. Also, didn't tell you about the other ISFJ that, well, we got in an argument over Twilight because I just didn't think that Bella's powers were that great. I just didn't love it. Okay? So, anyways, I was in this film class and he was talking about genres, and I raised my hand because this literally just happened. It's Twilight post. And I said, hey, teach, I said, can you put any two things together you want? Because he was talking about like rom-coms and whatnot, and I said, could you put any two genres together that you want? Can you just take two genres and just stick them together and make a movie? And he says, what do you mean? I said, well, can you take like horror and romance? Two odd things and stick them together. And my teacher said, oh, yeah. He goes, you know what? He goes, I'll tell you that Twilight was the first to do that. And I was like, yeah, horror, yeah, it's a horror. Tip Boxell, who's been in movies with, what's his name? Can't remember. I went and watched the movie though because I wanted to see him in the movie. But he's been in movies with like, it wasn't Harrison Ford or Liam Neeson. I keep thinking of them, but people like them. He's been in a movie with them before, and I was like, damn straight. Okay, this guy who's been in movies, who's teaching about movies, who knows movies. It came out of his mouth. All I said was horror and romance. I said nothing about Twilight. He brought up Twilight, okay? He did. So I took interior design and painting, and you wouldn't believe how much film, interior design, and painting all play into each other. That color will, man. It'll do it. So, anyways, reverse. Let's go back to what I was talking about before I trampled off into. So, yeah, so basically, yeah, got an artistic mind. Okay. I know what people mean when they do stuff, okay? So, this is an LDS family, Mormon, whatever you want to call them. And they're all about show. Okay? So, on that wall above that third couch was a giant painting of Jesus. Okay? Huge painting of Jesus. And at the top above Jesus was a picture of the parents. And then they asked each 9 of us children to give them pictures of our families so they could post them around Jesus. So they did it oldest to youngest. So first kid, firstborn, which that's my family. I think Dawn's sister got mad every time. She's the secondborn. Every time I was at a family event and said, oh, I'm married to the oldest. Yeah. So it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it made a circle around Jesus. Perfect circle. Okay, 10 pictures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 9, 10, yeah. Whatever. Anyways, so, it was a perfect display of this highly religious, happy family. Okay? For 3 years, I stared at that picture and regretted giving it to them. Because, really, there should be no picture there If this was a proper representation of the family and status, there should be no picture there. There should be nothing on that section of the wall. It should be empty. So that when people come over and see this empty space, they know what it is. That's the picture where my husband and his family should be. But you get it. You get it, right? Okay, you get what I'm talking about. I don't need to talk about it anymore. You get it, right? Okay. So, anyways, I come in and I end up actually sitting on the parents' couch. And Dawn's mom sits diagonally across from me on the other couch. So we're kind of tilted towards each other, almost knee to knee, facing each other. And to understand Dawn's mom, and I'm glad this is on video, she's so great. My husband has this bad habit. Shh, don't tell my husband, okay? He has this bad habit, okay? I've tried to tell him before. I hate this bad habit, okay? So when she's talking to you and she really wants to drill something in to you, and she will say what she says, and then she will get quiet and stare you down to lock it into you what she just said. And it's so odd how she just stares you down. It's like she's trying to burn it in you, okay? And anyways, we sit down, and so she right now at this time, her job is at this elementary school that my autistic son happens to go to. But no, she's not Nate in his class. Because she's like, he was in like, I don't know, first or second grade. And she was in like second or third grade, okay? Well, she said that she needed to sit me down. And she wanted to tell me next year because I get to pick the teacher for my son. Like at the end of the year, every year we sit down and we say, here's how your son's doing. Here's the teachers. What do you think is the best fit for your son? And we sit down and we discuss it. We okay the new teacher and new curriculum, new IEP, everything, okay? We get that all done at the end of the year, so we kick off the new year with the new plan, judging off his progress of the last year. um, she said that she was an aide for this teacher, who was a teacher over kids with disabilities. And this teacher and her did not see eye to eye. She said in her words that she thought that this teacher was cruel and mean to the children with disability. Now, I mean, I don't know how much to trust this because, I mean, first of all, there's more than one aide in these classrooms, okay? She's not the only aide. So if she was really cruel and mean to these children, I'm sure the aides would have reported it and she would no longer be working there. And other parents, too. Like, you don't let your disabled child be in a classroom with a teacher that's going to put him down and put his progress back. She started telling me that this teacher was negative and something else. I don't know why I can't remember this word because for all of 2017, this year that this shit went down, I constantly said this phrase because I had to retell the story over and over and over again. She's telling me about this teacher that's like negative and I don't know, something else, like, and how they didn't get along and how I need to not let my child be in her class next year. So when it comes to picking a teacher, I need to pick any other teacher but this teacher. Okay, I understand why she's telling me this, Thank you. Appreciate you looking out for my son, you know? I mean, it seems how they don't know how to handle, and I think that's one reason why it was easy for them to cut me out of their lives, is my kid was like a spectacle. When we would go over to their house, they'd be like, "Oh, the autistic kid is here." They're like, "Is how's he doing? Is is it okay to talk to him? Is it okay to touch him? And they're like, "Dude, you know." One time I made the dad angry because they weren't very helpful with my two autistic children. My daughter and my son were autistic. And I had just had surgery. Yes, it was laparoscopic. But they still cut like 3 or 4 holes in your belly, and they don't stitch you up anymore. There's no stitches. Cosmetic reasons to heal better. They just like glue you back together, okay? Well, I had a problem with one of my stitches from the day I came home. I had to call my neighbor. I told you I met this guy that was an ESFJ also. Very helpful guy. ESFJs, very helpful people. My first aid kit didn't have proper bandages. And I had to have him come over, him and his wife, and repatch me back up and try and put my my incision was coming open. It was hurting and it was exposed. And I had to keep closing it and pinching it back together. And I have a big scar. It wasn't supposed to scar. But it wouldn't close. Well, I was only a week out of surgery. Over at a Sunday dinner. They knew I had just had surgery. No, my husband, I don't know where he was. My 2 older boys were playing with the other kids, and they were making my kids do the dishes. They did whatever. They don't live there, but they were making my older boys, do the dishes. And my other 2 kids are just screaming and throwing a fit, and there's so much noise going on. And at this point in my life, like seriously, like a year before I got pregnant, I hit this point in my life where all of a sudden, too much activity. Like before, as an ESFJ, I could process a lot of things, okay? But all of a sudden, I couldn't process too much talking, too much noise. Like, it started giving me a headache. I started going insane. Nobody would help me with my 2 children. So I had to just scoop up my kids, and I told Dawn we're leaving, and we're leaving now. And the dad's like, well, at this time, the second oldest daughter was living in Wisconsin. And she finally agreed, because these Sunday dinners downstairs at the computer downstairs in the family room, they would Skype with her. Well, she agreed to Skype with me and my husband. But my incision was coming open. I was hurting. I couldn't hold my 2 children. But nobody was helping. And so I just said, I'm leaving. I said, I have to go. And the dad's like, but Crystal wants to talk to you. And I said, I'm sorry. And it's like, if you guys would help, I should have said this. I should have been like, if you guys would help me with my kids, and I just had surgery. But instead, I just said, I can't be here anymore. I said, I'm sorry, we're leaving. And so they were mad that I didn't Skype with their favorite doctor. Okay? But I had a reason for leaving, okay? I mean, laparoscopic surgery still hurts, okay? I did it twice in 9 months, okay? Twice in 1 year, okay? Less than a year, I had my gallbladder out. So the first laparoscopic surgery was tubal pregnancy. Had a tubal pregnancy. they had to take out the tubes and stuff on my left side. So basically, they told me I could still get pregnant if I wanted to because my right side was still functioning, but my left side wasn't because the baby just I'm a tiny person. I'm petite. No, my tubes are petite, and it just blew him, destroyed them. They couldn't repair them. Those are tiny tubes to repair, anyways. So they just removed it. So basically, I'm half fixed. It's funny. Not funny, but funny. But funny. But So anyways, 9 months later, I had my gallbladder out. Another laparoscopic surgery. It was not fun. So, yeah, so basically, I mean, fine. I'm glad you're showing concern for my autistic child that you guys treat as a spectacle or whatever when he comes over. Like, oh my gosh, he's autistic. Like when they talk to my husband on the phone, sometimes they'd be like, how's your autistic child? And they'd be curious. They'd be like, is he talking yet? What is he doing? I mean, maybe they should have just came over and got to know him and seen how they were doing instead of just be like, what's up with the autistic one? You know? I mean, I'm glad in a way they're curious because this is the first autistic child technically born in the family. I think the reason my son's autistic, it does come from my side of the family, but I think it also comes from his too. But I think we got a double whammy, and that's why we got 2 out of 3 children that are autistic. The last one is normal. I say that with air quotes if you are listening and didn't see that air quotes. Okay, because the word normal is, well, don't like it either. But anyways, so I don't remember how the convo switched to talking about why me and my husband can't come to Sunday dinners, why we're not allowed at family events. But basically, the mom, she would look away from me and be like, well, I gotta talk to my husband. Yeah. And then she'd look back at me and be like, I gotta talk and it's like, okay, don't bullshit me. You gotta talk to Crystal. Okay? I'm like, I'm not dumb. Okay? I know you don't have to talk to your husband. So, huh? So basically, yeah, I was like, okay. I'm like, let's just be honest with each other. And I don't think she liked that I saw through her. Because I'm like, I'm not dumb. I know what's going on. I know most of your Sunday dinners are at her house. Because there came this point when she came back from Wisconsin that the mom literally threw all control over to her oldest daughter. She started doing the family events, the Sunday dinners, everything. It was at her house under her control. And so I said, look, Rochelle has no problem with me. Charity has no problem with me. Said, why can't we have some Sunday dinners at a house where there's a child that has no problem with us? Because I understand, fine, if Crystal doesn't want me in her home, no big deal. But the other two want me in their home. But, like, she started calling me, was it mean and negative? She told me straight up, she said, Rose, if you're going to be mean and negative, you need to leave. And so I looked at her and I said, okay. I said, I'm trying not to be mean and negative. Can you tell me how I'm being mean and negative? Because in my mind, what I'm thinking at this moment is, your husband doesn't know you're here, Rose. He doesn't know you're talking to his mom, and especially about this stuff. And this never happens. They never talk to me about it. They never do. They talk to my husband. They don't talk to me. Okay? But they're talking to me. And I'm actually doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. So in my mind, I'm saying, how would Dawn handle this? What would Dawn do? What would Dawn say? You know, because I'm not coming home and telling him that me and his parents got into a fight. That's the last thing I wanted. Well, the conversation keeps going on. She throws it back at me. You're gonna be mean and negative? You're gonna have to leave, Rose. Conversation keeps going on. Rose, you're gonna be mean. And I'm just like, okay, I am trying to be on my best behavior here. I think mean and negative. I think two things were going on here. Mean and negative means you're not agreeing with me, for one. Agree with me, and this will all be over, Rose. Okay. And two, I feel like she's punishing me for the teacher. Like, all of a sudden the teacher was mean and negative, and now all of a sudden I am. Like, she's never done this. I've known this woman for 14 years. This is a new way she was treating me. This doesn't happen. Like, this conversation would have been cut off long ago. So anyways, I finally gave up. Like, 5 stages of grief. And I'm going to have to do a video on this. But I feel like for the last 14 years I've been going over the 5 stages of grief. I just hit acceptance at this moment. She was calling me mean and negative. I hit acceptance. I started looking around the house and saying, this is the last time you're going to be here. I had this overwhelming feeling come over me saying, you're never coming back to this house again. Ever. This is it, Rose. I knew it. And so I told her, and she, of course, mixed up my words. But I told her, I said, you know what? Because you read those things that say, you know, if somebody loves you, they, you know, they don't make excuses. They make opportunities or something like that, you know? Like, and so I told her, I said, you don't love your son enough. Enough. I said the word enough, okay? I didn't say she didn't. I said enough. Because all I'm hearing is her rattling out one excuse after the other. Why we can't just forgive each other, and like, I don't know why I kept hanging on to this hope for 14 years that we could just hit this forgiveness stage and forget stage 2. So this time instead of telling me I'm mean and negative, she gets up, she walks to the door, she opens it wide, and she says, "You need to leave." And I just put my head down defeated because I was just like, and I turned around and I looked at that open door and I turned back around. I'm defeated. This didn't go. I'm going to go home and I'm going to tell my husband I screwed up bad. She gets upset that I am still sitting there. So she runs up the stairs to get her husband. I stand up. I start to walk between the two couches very slowly. I look up at the wall of the pictures. I look at the door. And I'm like, "Rose, you got one last moment. One final moment. This is the last time you're going to be in this house. So if you want that picture back, you go get it." And the dad comes down the stairs and he said, "My wife asked you to leave, so you need to leave." Well, a week prior to this, my husband had been talking to somebody. And I don't know why he brought up his childhood abuse. I don't know why the conversation went this way. But he was talking about being hit with 2x4s. And I was like, what? I was like, fists, getting locked in cars, eating tubs of butter, getting, you know, now you're talking 2x4s and, I mean, like, oh my God. And so I walked straight up to the dad and I looked at him. I know this is bad of me, okay? This is bad of me. I'm not saying I was at my finest right now, okay? And I walked up to him and I said, "What are you gonna do? Beat me with the board like you did your son?" Remember, this is a patriarchal religion. This is high disrespect to the patriarch, okay? This is very high disrespect to the head of the family. And he immediately picks up his phone, and the next thing I hear is him 911 said he says there's an intruder in my home. And I was like, okay. Think fast, Rose, think fast. So I jump over the couch, I run across the room to the next couch, I jump up on the couch, and I jump up on the arm, and I'm short, okay, I'm only 5'4". So I jump up, and I couldn't grab the, and I jump up, and all of a sudden I feel these hands on my chest. And I was like, shit, he's right there. He's literally on me. He's got his hands around my rib cage. And I jump up for the third time and I grab the picture. I got it. And I ran across the room to run between the two couches and run out that door. But just as I was running across the room to get between the two couches, Dawn's mom steps up in between the two couches and blocks me. And there I am, staring her straight in the face. And that's the last thing I remember. Next thing I know, I'm on my back. I'm on the couch that borders the window. And I'm holding a piece of the picture frame in my right hand. And I'm sitting there going, what just happened? Like, I'm looking at the back of the couch, and all of a sudden I look up and I'm holding part of the picture frame. And I'm like, the hell? And I look up and I see Dawn's mom jump back. And I know body language, human behavior. And I'm like, she just got hit. I'm like, did he just hit her? Because that kind of jump back, it was a startled jump back. It was like, and they were talking. And they were looking in a different direction. So I thought, this is my chance to get out of the house. So all I have to do is I'm laying on the couch like this, just sit up and go over the arm of the couch, and the door's right there, and I'm out. I'm home free, okay? So I sit up, I grab the arm of the couch, and that's the last thing I remember. Everything went black. I remember feeling my feet trying to touch the ground. Like, I kept moving my feet, and I'm like, why aren't they touching the ground? And next thing I know, boom! And that was it. I opened my eyes. I was laying on the front porch. I looked back. The door was closed. The porch light was off. And I was thinking, where's my son? And I went to get up, and my head was just spinning all kinds of craziness. And I did a somersault off the front porch onto the lawn. And I turn my head and I look at the car, and the car is dark and it's empty. And next thing I realize, I'm all alone. And I try and pick up my head, and I crawl up the grass, and my head, oh my God, my head. And I laid back down in the grass, and I was like, my head. I was like, I can't stand up. I was like, my head. And I'm laying there in the grass, staring at the car. Loneliness is hitting me. My son is gone. He left. He walked home. He didn't get bored and come knock on the door and get me out. I found out later this is what happened. He called my husband on the phone and said, Mom is in the house talking to your mom. And my husband's reply was, oh, knowing your mom and my mom, well, they're going to be talking for a while. You might as well walk home. This ain't going to be. Because my husband had no reason to fear me talking to his mother. I've been over there before, without him before. Not a big deal, okay? Not a big deal. So, I'm laying there in the grass, and I look up, and all of a sudden, like, there's the grass, and there's a little 2-3 foot section of garden right under the window, and in the corner of the house where the porch is, there's 3 shovels stacked up. And I looked up and I thought, well, that's odd of my father-in-law to leave gardening tools out, because it's not like him to. He's a very OCD kind of guy. Like, if you did garden work that day, like, you better be putting the gardening tools away or you're in trouble. So to see shovels sitting there was crazy. And I thought, okay, this great thought came into my head. Okay, if I grab that shovel, if I just reach up and I grab the shovel, I could use it to stand up, and I can center myself, because I gotta get 10-15 feet to the car. I gotta get to the car. The car's right there. As soon as I get to the car, I'm home free, okay? Home free. So, my goal is get to that car. Whatever way you can, you're gonna get there. So I grab the shovel, and I stand up, and I look up at the window, and I see 2 black silhouettes still standing in front of the door, staring down at the phone, I think. They look like they were staring at the phone. I'm like, are they on speakerphone to 911? Because it looked like they were both invested in the phone call. Like, they were both staring, or maybe they were staring at the picture frame. I don't know. They were staring at something. They were both invested in something. And so I was kind of like, yeah, you don't give a shit about me. Because whatever you just did to me, because I don't know what you just did to me. Alls I know is I face planted it on your front porch. I'd find out later what he did to me. So I turn and I look at the car and I look at the window and I look at the car and I'm like, okay, you can do this. I said, you just, you're steady, you're sturdy. I had myself standing up. I got, I got to a sturdy place where I was like, okay, you can get to the car. You can do this. And so I grab the shovel. I turn around and I throw the shovel as I'm running. I just throw it. I release it from my hand. It was just one of those plastic snow shovels, the curved ones. It wasn't like a metal shovel, okay? I mean, it's a regular snow shovel. And as I'm running, I hear a crashing sound, and I stop, and I turn around, and I'm like, holy shit. If what I think just happened, I'm dead. I'm dead. He's gonna jump through that broken window. Because I know he's just on the other side of it. And I'm like, he's gonna kill me. So I like panic more into overdrive. I turned back around and booked it for the car. Thank God I left the keys in the ignition. As if I had put them on the seat, in my purse or something, like I would have struggled. But I just hit the ignition, got out of there. I can tell you, I did not properly drive home by the rules of the road. I'm surprised I did not get pulled over. I'm surprised they made it safely home. I get home, I'm on autopilot, okay? At this point, I'm on autopilot, okay? That's how I got home, autopilot. I knew how to get home. Just 2 streets, and I'm home. I get inside. I immediately, without thinking, take off my shoes and put them on the rack. Like any normal person coming home on any normal day. I walk straight back to my bedroom. My husband could hear that I'm crying and huffing and puffing. Like I didn't even know I was huffing and puffing and crying. But my husband, he knew I was home. He could hear it. And he's in our bedroom with my son, and I walk into the bedroom, had no idea what my face looked like at this point. I had it kind of. I saw a little bit of my face in the rearview mirror, and I couldn't look at it because it panicked me more and sent me more into overdrive. So I couldn't look at myself in the rearview mirror. I walked straight back to the bedroom. My husband goes, holy shit, what happened to you? And I looked at him and I said, your dad. That's all I said. Your dad. And he's like, and he just kind of like, he's processing this. Because he's like, okay, I know my dad was abusive years ago to like his kids. But he's like, my dad's over that, right? Like, my dad's not an abusive person anymore, right? Like, right? And I could see the process going on in his face. And it's like, I can't do this. I told my husband, I said, I can't do this. I turn around, I walk out, I go back, I grab my shoes, I don't even put them on. I need somewhere to go, and I know the cops are coming, so I go across my yard, there's a 3-foot tall fence, I step over it. I see my neighbor's porch. It's dark except for one tiny dimly lit light. And the house is dark. So I go sit on their porch. And I'm like, okay, put on your shoes. Okay, think, Rose, think. And I looked in their window. And there was my friend, my neighbor, sitting there. And I said, shit. If he notices me, I'm like, is he going to get mad on Mom at his porch? You know, I'm like, shit. So I knock on the window. And I'm like, okay. And he comes out and he's like, holy. He sees my face. And his wife, he calls for his wife. And his wife comes out and they're like, what happened? And I start telling him, like, I'm at the house. I took the picture. I said, they got mad at me for taking the picture. And I said, they beat the shit out of me. And I said, you know, she said something about like you need to call the cops, and I said no. I said I took the picture off the wall. I said, I and she's like, she goes, Rose, I don't care what you did. She goes, it doesn't matter what you did. It gives no man an excuse to lay his hands on you the way he did. Because literally, I guess half my face is covered in blood. Like, the blood is dripping from my eyebrow. Badly. And, um, my husband comes over. So their parents get home. And they start panicking because they see me. And then my husband comes over. And they kind of hold my husband back for a second because they're like, give Rose a minute. They're like, give Rose a minute. It's like something traumatic just happened to her, and she's not ready to tell her story. And I'm sitting there. It's like, holy shit. It's like, I'm like, I don't know what to say to my husband. His parents did this to me. And I mean, I was already panicking before I took the picture off the wall. How bad I screwed up. Everything I said, everything I did. But in my heart, I felt like I was doing the right thing. Like, I wanted that picture back. I wanted to never be a part of this family again. I hate acceptance. Okay? Well, I ultimately told my husband, let me go ahead and talk to my husband. And the lady calls 911. She's like, look, my neighbor's here. She showed up at my house. She's like, I don't know what happened to her. She's really not saying much. I'm trying to get my story out. I'm trying to. And she puts me on the phone with 911, and they start asking me questions, like what happened. And I tell them that I went over there just to give them a picture, but the mom insisted I come in. We had a bad conversation. I go over what happened. I tell them that they asked me if anybody got injured, and my first thought, goes back to, well, instead of saying me, I'm injured, my first thought is I go back to, well, I think Dawn's mom got hit. I'm like, I'm not sure because, well, technically I left there really quickly. Not of my own free will. I mean, kind of. I mean, I was trying to leave, okay, but he couldn't just let me leave out of the door on my own accord. Like, he had to take it into his own hands, literally. And, I start to tell him, no, I'm hurt too. And, I started to tell him, no, I'm hurt too. But they're like, well, we're gonna send police over. Unfortunately, they put the call over the radio, and the guys are like, okay, we're about to leave the parents' house. We'll take this domestic violence call because we need to talk to her anyways. Like, um, so they washed up my face, and I was talking to them, and they're like, Rose, when you talk, you move your eyebrows a lot. They're like, every time you move your eyebrows a lot, you start gushing blood. They're like, you need to stop moving your eyebrow. And I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, how do I talk without moving my eyebrows? Okay. I can't move my eyebrows. It's like you can't move your eyebrows. It's like, okay. Like right now, I don't know the extent of my injuries. Well, the neighbors are like, if we're all done here, can we go in? And they're like, we're kind of tired and we just got home and all that. So I told my neighbors, yeah, go ahead. This is the worst thing I could have done. I should have asked them to stay and support me. Because I go step over the 3-foot fence as the cops enter my yard. And the first thing I say to the cops is, am I in trouble? Now, I thought that was a natural thing to say to cops. Like, cop approaches you. What's up, bud? What do you say to a cop when they approach you? Like, am I in trouble? What's going on? Is everything okay? Those are like the top three things you ask a cop that approaches you. And they say, no, no, you're not in trouble at all. They're like, we just need your side of the story. Liars, okay? First of all, never trust a cop when they say you're not in trouble, okay? What you do is you go in your house. Because the cop, they want you outside. You know why? Because they can't arrest you if you go into your home. Domicile. Go in your home. Shut the door. Tell them you're going to get a lawyer if you have to. Don't talk. Because the second you talk, the second you screw yourself over. Well, I tried telling the cop my story. He's like, no, 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 no. He's like, that on your face, you did it to yourself. He said, it's too straight. Too straight. He's like, yeah, you hit yourself in the head with the picture frame. He's like, it's too straight across. Too straight across. Well, see, I hadn't seen my face yet, so I couldn't argue it. Didn't see my face till the next day because they arrested me. I found out why the cop arrested me, though. I mean, he was on the right track. He's like, when a domestic violence call comes in, there's a new law that you do have to arrest somebody. And you have to arrest the primary aggressor. The definition of the primary aggressor is who did the most damage. Okay? He hit his wife. He kicked me, literally, out his door. I fell on my face. That injury, his doing. Okay? He got violent. He's the primary aggressor. Okay? No, the cop said, oh, no, you're the primary aggressor. You upset them in their home. Therefore, that makes you the primary aggressor. And it's like, no, 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 no. It's like, it's who does the most damage. Somebody punches you, fight or flight, you hit them back, they hit you back. You get into a fight and you flee. You finally, get to a point where you can flee. Always do lesser damage because it's supposed to be the person that does the most physical damage is the one in trouble, okay? We get to the cop car, and this is the crazy ass thing. Okay, earlier that day, I was in a 1950s style white dress with cherries on it. Tank top, white dress, cherries on it. Okay? Really cute. Prancing around my yard on a warm April day. Looking like just looking all cute. Okay? I had ordered a Harley Quinn Daddy's Little Monster shirt. It came in the mail that day. I was excited. I changed my clothes into the Harley Quinn shirt and a pair of black sweats. So when the cops came over, instead of wearing my nice 1950s style cherry dress, I was in a Daddy's Little Monster shirt. So we get to the cop car, and poor me. He says, before he puts me in the cop car, he says, give me your meth. And I said, what do you mean? He says, he says, if I take you to the jail and they find meth on you, you're going to be in more trouble than if you just give it to me. He says, so just give me your meth and you won't be in trouble. And I said, I don't have any meth. And he's like, yes, you do. He's like, just give me your meth and you're not going to get in trouble, okay? And I told him, I said, what makes you think I have meth? And he goes, well, you got acne. And he's looking at my whole appearance going, pfft. you do meth. Okay? Totally judged me. Well, guess what? I didn't have meth. Guess what he didn't get? And we got in the car, and I'm like, okay, I don't have meth. It's like, why the freak am I getting arrested and everything and shit? And he's all like, he said, I forgot what I asked him for this response, but he says, well, we're just going to let the courts iron out the mess now. It's in the court's hands on who's innocent and not. But I'm not giving up that Don's dad's not innocent. So I go get booked and released. I've already got an hour and 15 minutes. I'm not going to even go into what happened to me at the jail and why you should never name your kid a junior. Because I got locked up for I had a restraining order not to call or talk to or visit Don's parents. I called my husband to talk to him, who carries the same name as his father. So I got locked up for 3 hours in the drunk tank because they accused me of breaking my... So, they wouldn't stop, they wouldn't listen to me. It took me 3 hours to get a cop to stop and listen to me, get me out of the drunk tank, and finish booking and releasing me. I should have been let go 3 hours ago. I guess I told the story in a fast way. But anyways, I finally get out of the jail. Get no sleep. But I'm going to show you a picture on my Facebook. And I'll show you, and it proves that I did not hit myself with the picture frame. And it wasn't straight. And you can see where my face hit the ground and a rock hit me in the head. And as my head rolled this way, the rock rolled up with it. Now, a picture frame doesn't roll up like that. And let me show you this picture so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. That's me the next morning after I get out of jail. Sorry, I was crying a lot. My eyes are puffy. You can see how puffy my eyes are. But you can see exactly, like I said, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but where the rock hit. And as my face rolled, the picture frame does not go diagonally up like that. You can see the diagonal curve go up and over the second eyebrow, and then my head finally rested on the ground. And that's when I woke up, and my head was laying flat like that on the pavement. I could scroll back on Facebook. I don't know if you guys want to see it, but I took pictures. I finally got the police report a few days later. I don't know, a while later. First of all, they did this to me over Easter weekend. So this ruined my Easter weekend for my kids. Guess what my kids didn't get? My kids didn't get Easter. Okay? Because Mommy couldn't get out of bed. I found out after I went to my chiropractor why. When he literally kicked me out the door, he broke my tailbone. It hurt to sit. My husband just tucked me back into bed and said, "Don't worry, Rose. You just need to heal. The kids will be fine." Luckily, my kids were A, too young, and B, when they're young and autistic, if you don't tell them there's a holiday, they don't know there's a holiday. So they didn't know they missed Easter that year because we didn't tell them. We didn't tell them Mommy couldn't get out of bed and hide the eggs. And Mommy couldn't take them on an egg hunt that year. They ruined a lot for me. And then worst of all, you should see the lies they put. in the court documents and lies they told the courts. Luckily, luckily, I'm smart when it comes to crime. Because I went and pulled the 911 tapes and gave them to my lawyer. And the story on the police reports does not match the story that the parents told 911 that night. I was charged with 3 things: trespassing, criminal mischief for the broken picture frame and the broken window, and assault. They said I hit her with the picture frame. They said I chucked the picture frame. But the scary part is when you listen to the 911 tapes, from the moment Dawn's dad says there's an intruder in my home to the moment he comes back to the phone and says, I just kicked her out. 18 seconds. It's how long it took me to race across the room, grab the picture, get beat up by him, and get thrown out the door. 18 seconds. When the mom was on the stand and we asked her, after he said there's an intruder in my home, how long did it take to get Rose out of the house? She said 10 to 15 minutes. And then we played the 911 tape and said, yeah, no, 18 seconds. We proved they were liars. It was fun picking jury. Well, we got to pick it twice. My first court date came up. Well, first of all, before the court date, I did get offered a plea deal. The plea deal said that I was going down for the trespassing, and I owed them. They kept changing the price on the window. They didn't produce a receipt, and they couldn't agree on the price of the window. But it was somewhere between $240 and $280 is what they kept saying. Every time they went to court, they said a different price, and the paper said a different price. But anyways, they wanted money from me. They wanted a public apology because I put this on Facebook. And they have family members and shit on my Facebook. They said they would take away. They said that if I followed the plea deal and gave a public apology and said I was the liar and confirmed their story was the truth, that they would remove the restraining order. They told me that they would only get the restraining order if I refused to give a public apology. And I can't remember what else they had. They had conditions. And another condition was that I go get mental health evaluations. Because years ago, the family told me, just admit you have a mental disability, Rose. Take your medication, and we'll accept you into the family. That's all you have to do. So when I saw that they wanted money for the window that I did not purposely break, but they said I did. They wanted a mental health evaluation so that they could get me on meds. They could get their public apology. I said, no, we're going to jury trial. I said, because I am telling the truth. And I banked that I pushed my lawyer. I guided my lawyer. He brought a second lawyer onto the case. And I banked everything on this case that we would do it. And the first trial, we picked the jury. We did opening statements. Broke for lunch. During lunch, one of the jurors had a heart attack. We had to redo the trial all over again, so we reset the trial a month later. It was a little disappointing, but in my heart, I felt like I didn't like that jury. They looked like they had attitudes, and it wasn't a very good selection, and they when during the opening statements, they were just, all of them were different, all over the place. You could see one person was actually emotionally reacting to. See, Dawn's mom, when she told her story up on the stand, she did this twice. She had to tell her story twice up on the stand, at my preliminary hearing and at the actual hearing. And she would be like, "Well, Rose told me that I didn't love my son," and I'm like, "Enough, enough. Put the word enough in there." And then she would go, "Oh yeah." She's like, cry for 5 seconds, and then she'd sit back up and go back to telling the story. She would say, he's she would say, "I love my son." She didn't say, she could have quit with that. She could have just said, "I love my son," or, "Hey, me and my son had a really great relationship. I love my son," till she came in the picture. No, no, no. She said, "I love my son. He's my child, and I love all my children." Okay, we get it. We get it. You birthed him. He's technically your child. You love him. Like I said, you don't love him enough. Fact proven. Okay? Because me, if I was up on that stand and I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be like, "He's one of my children, so I love him." I don't even know if I'd go into detail. I'd just be like, it was just really rude of her to tell me that I didn't love my son. Because I do. And my son knows it. We have a great relationship. All my 5 kids know how much I love them. And I prove it to them every day by letting them live their lives, their truths. I don't stop them. When my son got married, I told him, "I'm only going to be a part of your wedding plans if you want me to." I said, "I'm not going to butt in and tell you how to do." He had a beautiful wedding. I had no part in it. He planned his own perfect, beautiful wedding. I was proud of him. The place he chose, everything. My kid is so smart, so great. And I didn't butt in. I didn't tell him shit. I let him live his life. I let him do his own shit. I let him be him. I let his wife be his wife. I didn't put his wife through what I was put through for both of my marriages. I've been married twice now. And I can tell you the hell that everybody put me through. Because everybody wanted a piece of my wedding. And they say the wedding's all about the bride, but it was not. But that's another story for another day if you want to hear it. So anyways, basically, my lawyer's funny. We were picking we were picking uh we were picking the jury. And you have to state your name, your occupation, if you have a degree, and just a couple snippets about you, like where do you get your news from? Stuff like that. A couple snippets. That's the first round, okay? And so they get 24 people in a room. And this is what you don't know about jury picking, and I found this out. So the only ones that can be on the jury is we only need 6 people. But we can only pick from the first good 12. So when you go in and you get picked for jury trial, if you're like number 20 through 24, you're going home, okay? You're not on the jury, okay? I mean, some major shit has to happen before you get... Because first of all, it's through the first 12. Juror number 1 through 12, okay? Well, after everybody answers that first question, and they ask the question, do you know anybody that's testifying today? One guy said, yeah, the cop that's testifying, I'm his landlord, by the way. So we X'd him out because, well, I thought he was a good guy. Like, we pulled him in for additional questioning. Like, we asked him, and I felt like he could be. I mean, he knew this guy was a big, intimidating cop. He's like, this guy, like, I'm 5'4" and 120 pounds or less. This guy is like 3 times the size of me. He knew when that cop arrested me, what I was going through, because he's big and he's intimidating. And when he's questioning you, it's really hard to be questioned by a big, intimidating guy like that. That's why you need a lawyer there, okay? Don't say shit. So, anyways, I gotta wrap this up. I gotta go get my son from school. Um, One guy, luckily, was number 12 or 13. He ended up in the within the first 12. Good 12. First good 12. Like, we X'd out number 3 because they ask you, is there anything you have going on today that you cannot be here that will take your mind off this case? And juror number 3, long, crazy hair. He didn't even dress for court, and he's carrying his skateboard, and he's like, I go to college and I have tests today. And my lawyers are like, I don't really believe him, but we're gonna go ahead and X him because um he's definitely really doesn't want to be here that much to lie like that. That you don't want somebody like that on your case because they're not gonna focus. You want people that, and godsend, guessing he's an NT type. He had a bachelor's degree in like engineering, something really cool. And I turned to my lawyer and he says, "Who?" Okay, he says, "Out of the good first 12, who stands out to you that you really want?" And I said, "Boom, him, because and that's cool." And I guess I said it in a way that my lawyer's like, "You want him because his job is cool?" And I said, "No, no, 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 no." I said, "We're talking a shovel being thrown at a window, and the parents are saying I did this, and I'm saying I did this. Trajectory. An engineer would know trajectory. We want him." And it was cool. I loved picking out juror members. They don't have when do they have forensic scientists do it? Forensic psychologists do it, because I got to do it. And it was fun. It was like, okay, we're talking. We need somebody smart in this case that can do trajectory. I felt bad kicking the landlord off. I felt like he could have stayed. He was in the first good 12, and he shouldn't have been X'd just because he was the guy's landlord for 4 years. But anyways, we got a good jury. When I was first meeting my lawyers, we sat down and we went over every crime, the crime of assault. All you have to do is be found guilty of one of the 3 elements of that crime. And I said, "No, not guilty." We went over criminal mischief. Said, "Not guilty of any of those 3." Went over trespassing. We got to the 3rd element, and I was 50% guilty of that element. So it depended upon what the jury saw. They had to listen to my testimony and the parents' testimony and stuff and decide what side of the 50% they were going to land on. We were, of course, hoping they would land in our favor. But ultimately, they didn't. But what I showed my lawyers, I was able to show the jury. I wish I could talk more about it. I've taken up a lot of time. I wish I could talk more about it. Because there are things and pictures that the prosecution showed that ended up in my favor. The cop's testimony was in my favor, except for the last 2 minutes of his testimony. And overall, the verdict came out exactly as me and my lawyers thought it would be. Guilty of trespassing, 3rd element. Because when they tell you you're guilty, they have to list the element that made you guilty. Basically, I was trespassing in somebody's home that I was related to by marriage. As my lawyer said, Rose, you're guilty of being married to your husband, or else you wouldn't have been found guilty of trespassing today. But the third element found you guilty by association by marriage. As you know what I said, for the last 14 years, I said I've been guilty of being married to him. Because this was a long trial and the jury, this tells you how well the court case kind of went. Because they only deliberated for 20 to 30 minutes. 45 minutes after the jury was excused, we were back in court. And they were filing back in. So in that time, they had to decide my fate. Type it up, whatever I was guilty of, they had to type up on a piece of paper for the court clerk to read. The jury doesn't read it, the court clerk did. My God, they said, the first thing they said, trespassing, they said guilty. I bet Dawn's parents smiled big. I bet they thought they were about to win. And then when they got to criminal mischief, they said not guilty. They got to assault, they said not guilty. Because Dawn's dad, on the 911 tape, admitted he hit his wife in the face. Showed he lied. Now, this is what I hate about courts. Obviously, we proved perjury. Why weren't they punished? What was said on the 911 tape did not match what was said at court. Luckily, my lawyers took an extra break at lunch and said, we're going to go listen to those tapes one more time, Rose. They said, I have a feeling there's something in those tapes we haven't found. They went back over the tapes and oh my God, that's when they found it. He stuttered when the 911 person asked him if anybody was injured. He stuttered and said, I hit my wife in the face with the picture. And they said, listen, you can hear him stuttering. He didn't want to admit it, but he did. Right on the 911 tape. Because my father-in-law didn't know. He thought that he was just going to go to court and everybody was going to listen to his testimony, and because he was a bishop and everything and such a good guy, that he'd be so convincing like he was to the police officer, that he thought that that's all it took to convict me. He thought that he was just going to tell the jury what the evidence meant and they were going to believe him. He had no idea that you could pull 911 tapes, that what is said on 911 is taken as gospel. Be careful what you say on a 911 tape, because what is said on a 911 tape is evidence in a trial, without a doubt. And I have put somebody away for 72 hours when I was 17 years old over a 911 tape. And so, yeah, I've always loved the law and known a little bit about the law and everything in human behavior. Sometimes it gets me in trouble. My mouth, sometimes, gets me in trouble. And sometimes I can be smart, and that's one reason why I married an INTJ. I'm supposed to try and think better like him. Little less emotional, put my emotions in check, think a little bit logically. Sometimes my logic, it was good that night. I was trying to be like him. But I also took a couple moments to tell my mother-in-law some things she didn't want to hear, which I shouldn't have done. Not because, I should put up another story about the time I almost ended up on the Dr. Phil show. I backed out at the last moment. I panicked. They went to give me the plane tickets. They went to call my in-laws. They said we were going to film in 4 days, and I panicked. My husband told me that his parents were not going to show up. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. I had to go get my son. We'll see y'all later.